Hi, this video is a review and comprehensive tutorial on how to use the MSFS Addons Linker application. I'll dispense with the review up front here. It's an excellent application, it's well written and feature rich, and it's free. The developer is Bad2000 over at flightsim.to, and he's very responsive to questions or concerns that the users post over there. If you have a need for a comprehensive tool that'll allow you to organize and manage all of your community folder add-ons, I highly recommend this tool. I looked at a number of tools of this nature, and this one stood above the rest as easily the best one. So 5 out of 5 stars and highly recommended. The download page for this utility is linked in the description. You may need to create a free account on flightsim.to in order to download it. Once you've downloaded the zip file, open it up and select the files. It doesn't use an installation program, so you can just put the files into a folder located anywhere on your system. On my desktop, I keep a folder called MSFS Utils where I keep add-ons and flight plans and tools for the sim. It also has a shortcut to my actual community folder here. My folder is over on my D drive inside another folder called FS 2020. I'll create a folder for the linker like so and copy the contents of the zip file into that folder. One of the features of the sim is that you can put shortcuts to add-ons in the community folder and the sim will find them properly, and this utility leverages that feature. Once I've copied the application into the folder with its support files, I pin the program to my taskbar like this. I'll move it adjacent to the flight simulator on the taskbar like so. Backing out of the folder, you can see I have a folder at the top here called Community Add-ons, and this is where I keep all of my add-on aircraft liveries and utilities. These would normally be located in the community folder. One thing to bear in mind with your community folder is that the more elements that you have in that folder, the longer the sim will take to load up. So it makes sense to only load up, say, liveries for the aircraft that you intend to fly in a given session, or scenery that'll be in the area that you intend to fly for a given session, and removing all others to speed up the load times. You can see my community folder on my D drive over here is currently empty. In my Community Add-ons folder, I have a set of folders where I have things broken out into aircraft, liveries, scenery, and utilities to try to keep things organized. We're now going to let the MSFS Addons Linker manage all of these elements for me. The first time you launch the application, you'll get this loading progress followed by the options dialog box. Subsequent runs of the application will not bring up the options dialog, but will take you directly into the application. Once the configuration screen comes up like this, you're presented with an option to specify where you keep the add-on content. I click the Add button and I'm prompted to specify where the folder is located. In my case, it's on the desktop inside my MSFS Utils folder and Community Add-ons like so. I click OK to accept the choice and dismiss the browser window. Below this, we have a place to specify where the community folder is located. At the far right of the path input box is a button that will allow us to browse to the MSFS community folder itself, which on my system is on the D drive inside the FS 2020 folder, and it's called Community as expected. Click OK to accept the path and dismiss the browser. Below this is the presets folder location, and it defaults to your boot drive. I'm not going to change this. Preset files are pretty small and as such are not a concern for me in terms of space usage on my system, so I'll leave it at its default location. Obviously, you're free to specify a different location if you like. Below this is a drop-down selector to choose your version of the flight simulator. You can specify a path or the Steam version or the MS Store DVD version. I have the Store version, so I'll choose the Store DVD Fast Launch version of the application. The Fast Launch will bypass the Xbox, Asobo logo, and Black Shark AI startup screens. This will reduce the startup time slightly. Below this is an option that allows you to customize and rename the description column to something else from its default of description. Under this is the initial folder state. 3 options here of all collapsed, all expanded, or remember last state, and I'll choose last state. Below this, we have horizontal mode, which adjusts the orientation of the UI. I'll cover this when I go over the application's UI elements once it's up and running. Next is an option to disable a warning that MSFS is already running. A number of these options pertain to the fact that you can launch the simulator from within this application. It's recommended that you do that, as you'll see. I'll disable this, but it should be noted that once the simulator is running, no changes to the community folder will be detected by the simulator until the next time that it's started up again. While it's running, it will ignore changes to the community folder. Next is the option to automatically close the MSFS Addons Linker utility application once the simulator is launched from within the utility. I'll enable this since I want a minimum number of processes running on the computer while the sim is running. This is in an effort to optimize performance. The next option is really dependent on how your system is configured. For my system, I don't need admin rights to do anything with this utility. The application can prompt you when it starts to grant admin rights, and normally I would turn this off since I don't need it, but I'll leave it on for this demonstration so you can see how that works when the application starts. We can disable stats on the files when we browse them in the utility, and I'm going to enable this since I want the utility to be as responsive as possible. This one is entirely up to you, obviously. Next is an option to minimize to the system tray, and I'll turn that feature on. It'll warn you that you're launching the sim from the Addons Linker utility on the off chance that you mistakenly clicked on the launch button. I'll turn that feature off as well. The last item is to colorize enabled add-ons green in the UI, and I'll enable this feature like so. You'll see once we're in the application, this is a very useful feature. The next tab over the options screen allows us the option to specify one or more applications to run when we tell this program to launch the sim for us. I typically run my flight recorder application, so I'll add that here. Just happens to be at the correct folder for that application, so I just double-click on the application exe and it gets added. I also typically have little nav map running with the sim as well, so I can add that by browsing to its folder and again double-clicking on the application's exe file to add it to the launch list. Below this we have a dark mode option, which is very nice, but I'll leave it disabled since the non-dark mode will make this video easier to see with its higher contrast look. Following this are a number of options that allow you to customize the colors used by the application in its UI, but I'm going to leave these at their default values. Finally, at the bottom we have a path to a text editor. You could add Notepad or whatever editor you prefer here, but I'm going to leave it blank for this tutorial. The next tab is the Tags tab that lets you manage tags that you can assign to elements in your add-on collection that will further facilitate your ability to both organize and search within your library of add-ons. I'm not going to cover the Advanced tab here as we don't need any of its options to carry out the most common features of this program. Once I close the options screen, you can see that the program ran the check to see if we want to use admin mode. Remember, you can turn this off in the options screen. As previously stated, I don't need this on my system, so I will demur. Once inside the application, you can see that the application sees and understands my folder that I keep my add-ons inside of. It also shows my actual community folder, and we can see that it's currently empty. So if I wanted to, say, add this Cessna 152 mod that I have here, I just click the checkbox next to it, and a shortcut to that mod is created in the community folder for me, like so. Unclicking the box removes it. We'll look at this interface in more detail, but first I want to go over all of the user interface tools and elements that the application offers. Looking first at the menus, under File we have Exit to terminate the application. Under Presets we have Create New Preset or Manage and Apply Presets. Presets can allow you to create subset groups of add-ons in your collection and name them as a preset. So I can click on Aircraft here. Make sure you click the checkbox for the items you want to add to a preset. Just highlighting the item in the list won't work to add it to the preset. Now I select Create a New Preset and I'm prompted for a name for it. We'll call it, oddly, aircraft. Click OK to accept the creation of the new preset. Now I'll uncheck the aircraft category of add-ons here. At the bottom, we have a drop-down that'll let us select a preset and apply it like this. As you can see, the community folder now has those add-ons added to it. Also notice that the checkbox has a square in it instead of a check mark. This indicates that there are elements under the checkbox that are checked and elements that are not. If everything was checked, you'd get a check mark, but since we have a subset, it displays a square to indicate that condition. The last item in the Presets menu is the Manage and Apply Presets option that displays this dialog box for managing the presets like this. I just have the one in here right now. I can rename, delete, or edit it. Clicking on the Edit option opens a browser for my add-ons with all folders expanded like this. It also has a very nice search option at the top. For now, I'll delete the preset that I created, as we'll come back to presets and look at them in more detail in a moment. Since there's no content now in the window and our only option is Cancel, I'll click that to dismiss the dialog. Again, I'll turn off the aircraft add-on that is currently selected. Under the Tools menu, we have a Refresh All. This will refresh both our add-on folder and the actual community folder, and this is here in case you've added elements while the MSFS Addons Linker app is running, and that way it'll pick up those changes appropriately. Thumbnail Gallery will give you a gallery of all of the thumbnail data that the app has detected in your add-ons folder. These are typically found in liveries, but can also be included in scenery or aircraft add-ons. After a moment, it presents us with the gallery of all of my liveries that I currently have in my add-ons folder. You can also enable the Show Full Size when hovering over with the mouse option to get a full-size thumbnail view for a given element. I dismiss the gallery dialog by clicking the X to close the window in the upper right corner. Returning to the Tools menu, we have Locate Existing Add-on for Update, and this will have the application locate any updates for your add-ons for you. And Check Add-ons will validate that your add-ons do not have duplicates or elements that might conflict with each other. I have no idea what Mode Lib Changer is. And finally, in Tools, we have options that we saw when we launched the application. I can show you how horizontal mode works here as well. When I click on the option and dismiss the options dialog box, you can see that the UI is now arranged into two horizontally oriented boxes for the local add-ons and community folder. I prefer the vertical, so I'll restore it to that configuration. Moving over to Help, it just advises you, the user, to do what you're doing right now and go watch a video about how to use this application. We have an About screen here, and you can see the version that I created this video with. If you use a later version of the application, bear in mind certain behaviors or UI elements may have changed. Features may be added or removed since this video was created. Moving down to the toolbar, we have Create New Preset based on the current selection. Again, you must have the checkbox checked on any elements that you want included in the preset. A highlight alone on an element won't add it to the preset. Following that, we have a button to launch the preset editor that we saw previously. Next is Expand All, which does what you would expect in the add-ons pane, and Collapse All to undo the Expand All feature. Expand only folders that contain one or more enabled add-ons, so for example, let's say down here in Liveries, I have a single livery selected. You'll notice I have a subfolder in Liveries called Community. This is needed so that this utility can coexist with the Megapack Livery Manager, and I'll get to that in just a bit. I'll just enable one livery like this. Now I collapse the folder display. I click on the button and it displays just the folder that contains the active livery like this. I can click on Collapse All to restore the collapsed view like so. I'll click on the checkbox next to Liveries to disable all liveries for our tutorial here. Next is Expand All for selected folder, and I can select, say, the Scenery folder and click that, and it expands just that folder. Clicking it again collapses it. Next is expand or collapse to folder level. This will expand or contract all folders in the add-on pane. Most of the time we just pay attention to the topmost element of a livery or add-on, but this button opens up all the folders for a complete drill down. Click Collapse All to restore the display. We have another Refresh All option here. It's the same as the one in the Tools menu. Open folder of the currently selected element will actually open an Explorer window for the selected item's contents, as you can see here. Next is another way to get to the thumbnail gallery that we saw previously, and finally we have the Launch Simulator button. By launching it from this application, we can take advantage of the automatic launching of our other apps, such as Little Nav Map, as well as the fast launch feature that eliminates the opening splash and animation screens in the sim. Within the add-ons and the community folders, you have a large number of columns of metadata about your add-ons. You can resize the columns and sort by the columns like this. You can also change the size of the respective panes in the application between the add-ons and community panes. Right mouse clicking on a column heading displays a context menu. From here, you can select to sort ascending or descending for that column, or clear all sort choices and return to the default. You have a column chooser that will allow you to add and remove columns to the display. To remove a column, drag it to the top of the column chooser box like this, and it'll appear back in the list of unused columns. Dragging an unused column into the pane like this will add it to the display. The best fit option will size a column so that all of its contents are readable. Best Fit All does this for all of the columns. There is a filter feature for this utility that is very powerful. I'm going to expand out the liveries here and rearrange the window here slightly as to make it easier to see what's going on with this feature. Every column heading has a filter feature that you can activate when you hover over the header. It will appear as a tiny funnel in the upper right corner like this. This opens a little filter window that lists all of the unique elements for that column. The title column for our example here. You can then click on any of these items and it will filter out all of the others that don't match. You have a clear button at the bottom and a close button. The column context menu activated with the right click of the mouse has a more sophisticated filtering system that you can invoke at the bottom of the context menu. This filter window will give us a filter rule that we can edit like this. Right now it says title begins with, and I could put a value into this last box to specify a starting value for the title to match on. Clicking on begins with invokes a list of Boolean filter matching criteria that I can use to create my filter as well. If I type beach for the match value, indeed we get a subset of the list that only matches the King Air. Clicking back on the funnel icon in the column header, I can see a simplified version of the filter and I can also clear it here. As you can see, it also supports a wide variety of Boolean filter rules to use as well. It also supports a two-clause filter that is controlled with an and an or clause. Back on the main filter editor screen, we can specify a different column and rule, and we can see below how it is constructing the filter using its own filter macro language. We can code our own filter using that language instead of the template form as above. For example, I add a space after the existing rule and it prompts for an and or an or clause to string more than one rule together. Using this, you can create some incredibly sophisticated filters for finding add-ons in your library. We also have a custom description element that we can access via this little ellipse that appears here on the description element of the currently selected item. It allows you to set a custom description name, a URL to the website that you got the add-on from, and a symbolic link name. Right mouse clicking on an element in our add-ons pane will bring up a context menu like this. The first option is Open Current Folder and is active when you have a folder selected. Clicking on this will open an Explorer window for the folder you've selected. Next is an option to allow you to create a new folder and open it, followed by Delete Folder, only if empty. Next is Manage Add-ons. You can add new add-ons and the application will be aware of them without needing a refresh. If I pick an actual add-on like this scenery one here and then invoke the menu, you can see that the other add-on management tools are now available. We can rename, move to the community folder, delete it, or open its manifest JSON file. I suspect you have to have your text editor configured in the options for that. Following that, we have more expand and collapse options for the folder hierarchy. We can restore or create a new preset. We can enable or disable all add-ons. Disabling them is useful when an update happens and creates a compatibility issue with an existing add-on, and you can disable it until you get a fix. Moving up to liveries for the next item, we can invoke the thumbnail gallery from this menu as well, like this. We can save our custom column sizes since they'll revert back to defaults when we reopen the app. We can also reset them to their defaults here. I'm not sure what fix first column to the left does for us. We have two quick filters to allow us to see only enabled or disabled add-ons. We can clear those filters, and finally we can export the database to an Excel file. At the bottom of your community folder are a set of stats about the add-ons that are currently linked in the community folder. The first one indicates the number of links that are currently active and valid in the community folder. Next is a count of the standard Windows subfolders currently in the community folder. Following that, a count of the number of links in the community folder that are not being managed by the MSFS Addons Linker utility. After that is a count of any broken links in the folder, and finally the number of links that point to official content. Moving over to the bottom of the add-ons pane, we have a drop-down here to select from any presets we've created, and the first button next to it allows us to apply the preset that we have selected. The next button is Apply Preset Cumulatively. Normally when we apply a preset, it clears any previous selection that are active in the community folder. Using the Cumulative button will retain all previous selections and add our current preset to them. Next is the Create Preset. This will allow us to create a new preset from the currently selected or checked items in our add-ons folder and name it. I'll create a preset for each of the add-on category folders that I have here. Now you can see we have an empty community folder. Utilities is currently selected in the drop-down, and I can click Apply Preset like this, and now it's active in the community folder as you can see here. I do not have to create presets only from the top level folder. You can drill down and create presets for elements within, such as say this Coventry scenery here if that's all I wanted in the preset, or any combination thereof. Another thing you can do with presets is to uncheck everything so that nothing is enabled and create an empty preset. And this is useful when you want to clear out all of the elements in your community folder. You just apply the empty preset and it removes all of those elements. This is handy for when you're going to receive a new update for the sim. I'll add some elements to the community folder here using the cumulative options, so now we have aircraft, liveries, and scenery. Now if I need to prepare for an update to the sim, I can come over and choose the Clear All preset, and it will clean out my community folder, and I'm ready to receive the new sim update. Our penultimate button down here is to edit the currently selected preset. So if I select, say, liveries and select this option, I get a display of all of my add-ons, and I can now add or remove by checking or unchecking items in the window. I also have a nice search option at the top that I can use as well. The editor has the same column elements that we looked at previously. You can also select items from your add-ons and update the currently selected presets, such as liveries that I have here. I can go into the add-ons and select or deselect elements as I see fit. Then I click the Save button down here, and I'm prompted as to whether I wish to update the preset with these new changes, and I can choose to do so or not with the yes or no buttons. Speaking of liveries, as previously noted, I have a community folder with my liveries folder, as you can see here. This community folder is here so that I can use the Megapack Livery Manager application in conjunction with the MSFS Addons Linker utility. I covered this utility in my 5 add-ons video that's linked in the description. If I run up the Megapack Manager here like this and look at installed liveries, we can see I have King Air and Icon A5 liveries installed. Looking at the settings in this application, we can see at the top it wants a path to my community folder. As you can see here, it actually points to the community folder I created inside of the liveries folder on my local add-ons folder. If I point it straight to the liveries folder like this, you can see that it cries about the fact that the folder is not named community. So adding the community folder to the path like so overcomes that issue, and MSFS Addons Linker and the Megapack Livery Manager can peacefully coexist. Okay, that's it for this tutorial. I hope this helps someone out there. If you liked the video, please click on like, as that really helps. Thanks so much for watching, and until the next video, take care.